The morning begins like any other in Pompeii. Soft sunlight spills across the stone streets, warming the walls of painted villas and quiet courtyards. Merchants prepare their stalls, bakers tend their ovens, and distant footsteps echo gently through the narrow roads. Above the city, Mount Vesuvius rests beneath a pale blue sky, silent and unmoving. Few give it more than a passing glance. It has stood there for generations, a quiet presence on the horizon. Life continues in its steady rhythm, unaware of how quickly that rhythm will soon change. By mid-morning, the marketplace hums with quiet energy. Vendors arrange figs and olives with practiced care, their voices low and unhurried. Children weave between stone columns, laughing softly as they chase one another across the warm pavement. The air smells of fresh bread and crushed herbs. Somewhere in the distance a dog barks and is quickly silenced. Nothing feels unusual. Nothing suggests that beneath the surface, deep within the earth, pressure is slowly beginning to build. Inside a quiet villa, sunlight filters through the open atrium, tracing soft patterns across the marble floor. A woman folds linen near a painted wall, her movements slow and steady. The world beyond these walls feels distant and calm. A faint tremor passes almost unnoticed. A cup rattles lightly against a wooden table before settling again. It is brief, subtle, easy to dismiss. Pompeii has felt small tremors before. Life resumes as though nothing has happened. High above the city, deep within Mount Vesuvius, something ancient begins to stir. Far beneath layers of hardened rock, molten stone shifts slowly, pressing outward with quiet determination. The mountain that has stood silent for generations now carries a hidden tension, invisible to the thousands living peacefully below its shadow. A thin ribbon of smoke rises from the crater, delicate at first, almost elegant against the pale sky. It curls upward like a whisper, dissolving into the afternoon air. Most citizens do not notice it. Those who do simply shrug and continue their routines, unaware that this subtle signal marks the beginning of something unstoppable. By early afternoon, a fine dust begins to drift down from the sky. At first it feels almost harmless, settling gently on rooftops, market stalls, and outstretched hands. It resembles pale snow, though warmer and strangely dry. Children reach out to catch it, curious and amused by this unexpected change in the air. Gradually, the falling ash thickens. The sunlight dims, filtered through a growing cloud that spreads wider with each passing moment. Conversation slow as people glance upward more frequently now. The air tastes faintly of stone and smoke. Still, no one fully understands what is unfolding above them. The sky continues to darken, shifting from pale gray to a heavy, oppressive shade that swallows the warmth of the afternoon. Shadows stretch unnaturally across the streets, and the once vibrant colors of Pompeii fade beneath a curtain of drifting ash. The familiar world begins to feel distant, as if viewed through thick glass. A low rumble rolls through the ground, deeper now, more persistent than before. Windows tremble, loose stones shift along the edges of the roads. The mountain no longer appears calm. Its presence feels larger, closer, almost alive. And slowly, an unspoken fear begins to settle over the city. The ash now falls steadily, coating the streets in a growing layer of gray. Footsteps leave deep impressions that quickly disappear beneath fresh dust. Citizens wrap cloth around their faces, shielding their eyes, As the air becomes increasingly difficult to breathe, the once busy marketplace dissolves into confusion, voices raised but muffled beneath the thickening sky. In the distance, a towering column begins to rise from the mountain, dark and immense. It stretches upward with terrifying power, spreading outward like the crown of a vast and terrible tree. The ground trembles again, stronger this time, sending small fragments of stone tumbling from rooftops. Inside their homes, families gather in uneasy silence. Oil lamps flicker as fine ash slips beneath doorways and settles along windowsills. Parents pull children close, whispering reassurances they are no longer certain of themselves. Outside, the distant roar of the eruption grows louder, echoing through stone corridors and narrow streets. Each tremor feels heavier than the last. Dust falls from ceilings in soft clouds, collecting across tables and sleeping mats. The familiar comfort of stone walls offers little reassurance now. What once felt permanent begins to feel fragile, as though the entire city rests upon uncertain ground. The sky turns nearly black as the eruption intensifies. Lightning flickers within the towering cloud, illuminating the chaos below in brief, ghostly flashes. Ash falls in thick waves now, obscuring vision and silencing the world beneath a suffocating blanket of gray. Panic begins to spread through the streets as families attempt to flee toward the city gates. Carts overturn, animals cry out, and the air grows painfully hot. Above them all, Vesuvius roars with unstoppable force, releasing centuries of pressure in a single, devastating display of nature's power. The air grows thick and heavy, making each breath slow and deliberate. Ash swirls through the streets in restless spirals, erasing landmarks that once guided familiar paths. Buildings fade into shadow as the sky glows with a dim, unnatural red. The world feels smaller now, reduced to only a few visible steps ahead. Voices call out through the darkness, but sound seems swallowed by the dense air. The city that once echoed with laughter and trade now trembles beneath a sky that refuses to clear. Time itself appears distorted, stretched between seconds that feel endless. Inside many homes, roofs begin to collapse under the growing weight of ash. Wooden beams crack with sharp echoes, sending clouds of dust into the dim rooms below. Tables, mosaics, and carefully arranged belongings disappear beneath a rising blanket of gray. The city that once symbolized wealth and culture now stands fragile and vulnerable. Every tremor reshapes the streets. Every falling stone alters a life. Pompeii, proud and thriving, is slowly being rewritten by forces far beyond human control. Beyond the falling ash, a darker force begins to move down the mountainside. A dense, rolling cloud surges forward with terrifying speed, carrying heat and debris in its path. It advances like a living storm, unstoppable and indifferent. In that moment, the fate of Pompeii becomes sealed. Streets, homes, temples, and memories are engulfed beneath waves of ash and heat. The vibrant life of the city fades into silence, preserved in stillness beneath layers of volcanic stone. When the mountain finally grows quiet, an unnatural silence settles across the landscape. The roaring fades, the trembling stops, and the sky slowly clears. Where a thriving city once stood, there is now only a vast field of ash and hardened stone stretching beneath a pale and empty horizon. No voices remain. No footsteps disturb the surface. The streets, homes, and courtyards lie hidden beneath layers of volcanic dust, preserved in a stillness that feels almost sacred. Pompeii does not disappear entirely. It simply sleeps beneath the earth. Days pass, then months, then years. Rain falls upon the ash and hardens it into stone. Winds reshape the surface, softening the sharp edges of destruction. Slowly, nature begins to reclaim what was taken, covering the silent city with soil and fragile green life. Generations are born and fade without ever knowing what lies beneath their feet. Stories of the eruption become distant legends, whispered and altered with time. The memory of Pompeii drifts into myth, carried only in fragments of fading history. Empires rise and fall beyond the buried city. Rome changes, borders shift. New rulers claim distant lands, unaware that beneath quiet fields rests a frozen moment of history. The world continues forward, indifferent to what lies preserved below. Beneath layers of earth, walls still stand. Mosaics remain intact. Objects rest exactly where they were left. Time moves everywhere else, but here it has stopped, sealed beneath stone and silence. Centuries pass before human hands disturb the silence. Farmers working the land strike something solid beneath the soil, not natural stone, but shaped and carved by careful design. At first, it seems insignificant, just another buried remnant of an ancient past. But as more earth is removed, fragments of walls begin to appear, lines too straight to be accidental, corners too precise to be natural. Beneath the quiet fields, something vast and forgotten waits patiently to be revealed. Careful excavation begins. Layer by layer, the hardened ash is chipped away, revealing streets perfectly preserved. Doorways emerge. Frescoes regain color. Entire rooms appear frozen in the exact moment they were abandoned. It is as though time itself paused on that distant August day. Tools remain on tables. Amphorae stand where they were placed. The city, once silent beneath stone, slowly opens its eyes to the modern world. As excavations continue, voids are discovered within the hardened ash, empty spaces where human forms once rested. Carefully, plaster is poured into these spaces, preserving the final outlines left behind by time. The figures that emerge are not merely artifacts. They are reminders of lives once lived, of ordinary mornings, quiet conversations, and simple routines interrupted by forces beyond control. In their stillness, they tell a story that words alone cannot fully capture. Within the uncovered homes, ordinary life quietly waits. Loaves of bread remain hardened in ancient ovens. Clay pots sit upon stone counters. Simple tools lie where hands once placed them, unaware that they would never be touched again. These small details speak louder than grand monuments. They reveal a city not defined only by tragedy, but by daily routines. Meals prepared, floors swept, conversations shared in shaded courtyards beneath the warm Italian sun. Walking through Pompeii today feels like stepping into a paused world. The streets remain narrow and worn by ancient footsteps. Wheel ruts still carve their paths into stone. Mount Vesuvius stands quietly in the distance, calm and almost indifferent. The volcano that once brought destruction now watches over the preserved city like a silent guardian of memory. Visitors move carefully through the ruins, aware that beneath their steps lies not only stone, but the imprint of human lives. Pompeii reminds us that even the most vibrant cities can change in a single day. Wealth, beauty, ambition, all can be reshaped by forces beyond human control. Yet, within that fragility lies something powerful: remembrance. Because Pompeii did not vanish without trace. It endured, sealed beneath ash, waiting to tell its story centuries later. In its silence, we find a lesson about time, humility, and the quiet resilience of history. Imagine walking slowly through the ancient streets as the sun begins to set. Long shadows stretch across the stone road, touching doorways that have stood for nearly 2,000 years. The air is quiet now, filled only with the distant sound of wind moving gently through open corridors. Each step feels deliberate, as though you are moving not only through space, but through time itself. The walls still hold faint traces of color. Faded paintings whisper stories of celebrations, gods, and everyday hopes once painted with careful hands. There is something profoundly human about these ruins. They are not distant legends carved in marble towers. They are kitchens, bedrooms, courtyards, spaces where ordinary lives unfolded in simple, familiar ways. Pompeii does not only tell a story of disaster, it tells a story of life paused mid-sentence, of conversations unfinished, of plans made for the following morning that never arrived. And in that pause, we are reminded of how fragile and precious each quiet day truly is. As dawn rises over the ruins, golden light washes gently across stone walls and empty streets. Birds move freely above structures that once echoed with human voices. Nature and history exist together here, balanced in quiet harmony. Pompeii stands today not as a symbol of fear, but as a reminder that time moves steadily, that change is inevitable, and that even in loss, stories can endure. Beneath layers of ash, memory survived. When evening settles over Pompeii, a different kind of silence takes shape. It is not the sudden silence of disaster, but the gentle quiet of reflection. The stones no longer carry panic or fear, only memory, softened by centuries of distance. The volcano still rises in the distance, unchanged in form, yet transformed in meaning. What once symbolized destruction now stands as part of a landscape that teaches patience, humility, and the steady rhythm of the natural world. Time continues to move forward, as it always does. Generations rise and fade. Cities are built, flourish, and change. And yet, beneath the movement of centuries, there are moments that remain suspended, preserved not in perfection, but in authenticity. Pompeii is one of those moments, not preserved because it was powerful, but because it was ordinary, because it held laughter, work, dreams, and quiet evenings beneath open skies. Its strength lies in its humanity. As we leave this ancient city behind, we carry with us more than images of stone and ash. We carry a quiet awareness that life, in all its simplicity, is both delicate and meaningful. And perhaps that is the lasting gift of Pompeii. Not fear of sudden change, but appreciation for ordinary moments, for shared meals, for calm mornings, for conversations that seem small yet shape entire lifetimes.